Hey guys, so I wanted to talk about another question that's definitely come through numerous times, and I honestly think that this can shed a ton of light for you if you are new to the concept of ascension symptoms or just spiritual awakening. So if you're a newbie, I'm sure this video will be incredible for you. If you've already been on the spiritual awakening path for some time, but maybe you've been a little bit confused on the process, I highly also recommend tuning in and listening, because this will shed a ton of light for you on why things have occurred the way they have. So what is the question? The question is, why does the ascension symptoms happen? Why do the ascension symptoms happen? This is a game changer, because if you don't know why the ascension symptoms are happening, this will help you so much moving forward on your spiritual awakening journey. So tune in. Hey guys, so it is Ashley here from theawakenstate.net, and we are going to talk about the ascension symptoms today. So if you are not familiar on what the ascension symptoms are, I highly recommend that you head to my website, because I have an epic long list of all the ascension symptoms and what you can experience during a spiritual awakening. And before we dive into the question, I also just want to rewind for a minute and be like, well, how do you know? How do you actually know what the signs and symptoms are? Well, let me tell you, my friends. When I originally created that list, it was around 2013, 2014. I think it's 2013, because it's post 2012. Yes. So it was around 2013. I sent out one of these huge surveys, and I asked everyone that was in my community to submit what their symptoms were. And I literally compiled a list of the most common symptoms that we experience in the various categories. And my blog at the time was bringing in over 50,000 people. So it was a lot of data. It was a lot of real data from real humans who submitted to me, and common patterns, common symptoms, common signs, common numerology. Like, I'm not new to this process, okay? So I've spoken to many people about spiritual awakening, and I'll tell you why I did this, because a part of me was very confused, and a part of me didn't even believe that it was real. And one of the things that really helped solidify things for me with understanding spiritual awakening is I started to reach out to numerous people around the world. And I actually joined a lot of Facebook groups. I remember there was a distinct moment where we developed our own Facebook group, and we were called the Star Children. And I learned all sorts of things from that space of just growing and healing together. And honestly, as a community, I learned so much more than what I did from just a single person. And I think, honestly, because of that experience, it really did accelerate my growth and my healing, because it allowed me to take on so many different perspectives of spiritual awakening. Now, from that perspective and that, that change in awareness, I started to really kind of develop a wide view lens of different ways people experience the signs and symptoms. And then, so it was around 2016, 2017, I added this to my blog, later now website. And so that's where the signs and symptoms happened. So if you aren't familiar with ascension symptoms, I have you know that those particular signs and symptoms, while maybe the language is a little bit more new age than how I speak now, that list is composed of numerous people who have submitted to me the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and again. So to say that it isn't real, or to say that it's fake, or to say that I'm like brainwashing you and it's like not medical terms, of course it's not medical terms. Of course, there's a huge disclaimer here. If something's wrong with you, please seek medical attention. It's important. that you can't just blame every single tiny little thing that happens to you as an ascension symptom. Please don't do that. But instead, rather to look at this as like a guide on what's most common when you have a spiritual awakening. So if you don't know what those ascension symptoms are, I highly recommend looking at that list and then coming back to this video. Now, if you do know what ascension symptoms are, I am going to hope that you're on the same page as me, and we're just going to dive more into the depths of why they happen. So ascension symptoms can vary for various people. So they can range from increased hypersensitivity. They can be more like hyperempathy, where you are experiencing being an empath, but feeling everybody's emotional everything. You're feeling their pain as your pain. You can start to experience feelings of where you're sensitive to environments, like even going to the grocery store. You can have moments where you're physically feeling the energy of other people. This was my personal experience. You can have out-of-body experiences. You can have heart palpitations. You could have physical symptoms such as flu-like symptoms that just rapidly go away so that they're not even like the flu. It's weird. And you can start to have very different like headaches and abrupt like tingling sensations in your head, and where you have like this like pressure in your forehead where it feels like it's sinuses, but it's like also, again, it abruptly disappears and it's temporary. There's so many different symptoms that it's so bizarre to even list them all, because I could be here all day and that's silly. So, but there's so many symptoms. And why do the symptoms happen? Well, let's go back to understanding why when you have a spiritual awakening, your body is literally turning on like 360. So it's kind of like you had all this energy. First, you know, we're all energy. Everything is energy. And our energy body starts to turn on. And most people are aware that they are living a human experience, but they're not aware of their own energy. And so their energy starts to turn on at a really rapid rate. And this is what causes the Kundalini awakening, Kundalini rising, Kundalini ascension to occur. And it starts to wake up all of this energy that was dormant. And when you start to look at when you have a spiritual awakening, it's suddenly like everything turns on. And I've gotten this experience in this comment numerous times, is like it's like suddenly the light switch turned on, or it feels like out of nowhere, just full electricity, everything turned on, and I'm suddenly experiencing all these symptoms. I'm suddenly experiencing all this energetic overload, and it feels kind of like you were normal and then all of a sudden you weren't normal. And because of this influx of energy is rapidly turning on, and it's kind of like almost like a volcanic rush of energy flooding your nervous system. And I think that's really the best way to describe it. And when you look at it that way, these symptoms start to occur because the old you who didn't awaken and who was unaware of spiritual awakening is still kind of hanging out there. And then we have the new you, the new identity of the evolved self, the evolved consciousness. This person is who you're desiring to be. So the soul goes through what I call soul emergence. And it feels like before you were just living from the survival mind, and then you start to have a spiritual awakening. And what occurs is you have turned on the creative mind, the higher self, higher consciousness, higher truth, the higher mind. And this abrupt shift in consciousness is very taxing on the nervous system, and then it feels really unsafe for the ego. And because the ego is your identity. And so if your old identity is suddenly threatened because of this soul emergence of the Kundalini energy from the rising of consciousness, essentially, it's literally the rising of your vibrations, the rising of consciousness, this threat to the new identity and the old identity, or from the old identity to the new identity, this is what causes those symptoms to show up. And so what happens is all of this energy comes online, and all of this new energy starts to turn on, and it threatens the ego. So then what occurs is we start to have all these symptoms display themselves in our chakra system. And that's why we feel super ungrounded. That's why we feel emotionally everywhere. That's why we are all over the place and like feel like we're powerless or out of control. That's why we feel the heart palpitation shifts. This is why we have the sudden channeling, the sudden soul communication, where we are like tuned into clairaudience. This is why we have clairvoyance. So you can start to see that like it turns on. And because of that, your old self is threatened by the new identity of the evolved consciousness. So if you were to just see it as old, new, and because you're experiencing the evolving of the raising of the vibrations, the raising of the consciousness, you're growing out of the old consciousness. And because you're growing out of the old consciousness, you're transforming and transcending the ego. And you're transcending the ego into the new self. And because of that, you're starting to change the way that you are processing information. You're starting to change the way that you are communicating. You're changing the way that you're literally tuning into the body via your intuition. And so your old self was more, I hate to say this, it's more three-dimensional. It's more third-dimensional. Because in third-dimensional consciousness, it was black and white, duality, right and wrong, good, bad, shadow, light, separation. And the evolved self is embracing the quantum of unified consciousness. So why does the ascension symptoms occur? Because in the middle here is this bridge where it's producing all of this friction and cognitive dissonance to change. And so the ascension symptoms start to come up to heal all of the inauthentic programming in vibrations, in lower negative emotions, lower negative stories, lower vibrational stories is what we could call it. So it starts to essentially heal the old programming. And so what you experience is you're having all of this energy rising up, and it's downloading all this new energy into your body, basically. And so the old you is fighting against the new you. And this is what produces those symptoms to occur. And the symptoms are almost a personification of what you are refusing to let go of in your consciousness. So they're displaying themselves. Wow, this is like, I've never gotten such a clear description before, but they're displaying themselves as a physical manifestation of what you're refusing to let go of. So if you were to think about it, like when you feel super ungrounded, for example, it means that you don't feel safe in your body. In the same way, when you're really like, I talk about this a lot, when you have spiritual burnout and you're like really in those higher chakras where your third eye is super overactive, Maybe you're excessively meditating, you're second guessing your intuition, you're always kind of out in left field. Maybe you're doing a lot of pot, maybe you're doing a lot of psychedelics, maybe you're really out there, like in outer space kind of vibe. Well, that is displaying itself as you need to be grounding and anchoring in that information in the physical world, and to stop being out in outer space and to instead ground out and release all that excess energy. So you start applying it back into your life. So it's like we receive the download, but then we don't do anything with it. Or then we receive the intuitive nudge to get rid of the relationship or the career or whatever, but we don't do it. All of these things are happening simultaneously because we're trying to break free from the old identity. And so what I've learned, and this is like how my perspective has really shifted on this, is it's so much easier to understand that the ascension symptoms are coming up because you're trying to break free from the old identity. And what occurs is the ego hates change. So what normally occurs is people say, I have to get rid of my ego. I have to shame my ego. My ego's bad. And we come at it from this lens of, I have to get rid of my negativity. I must suppress my negativity. I must let go, or not let go. I must completely get rid of it. I cannot have a freaking ego anymore. But that's not what it's about. It's not about that at all. It's about transcending the ego, transcending the identity. If you start to get this, it can really shift so many symptoms that are coming up for you. When you get this, it can change your life. Because when you start to see that it's about transcending consciousness, transcending identity. Identity is consciousness. Identity is energy. Identity is consciousness, is energy, is vibration. You just start to transcend that. Now you're naturally raising your vibration. Because the ascension symptoms are saying, I'm refusing to change. I am refusing to let go. I don't want to let go. I don't want to. So this energy of I don't want to starts to create all those symptoms as physical manifestations of you refusing to let go. And so why do the ascension symptoms happen? Because you're refusing to let go of something. And that's what stops the transition process. And so what I quickly learned is how to clean up those symptoms, how to heal them with the chakras, how to release them with mindset work. And then I started learning a repatterning process on how to literally reprogram them. And what inevitably occurred is I realized that spiritual awakening is all about reprogramming. That's literally what is going on. The people who are really suffering with ascension symptoms are not embracing the letting go process. So I invite you, as your soul takeaway today and your awakening tip, what are you refusing to let go of? Because this will shed a ton of light for you on how you can start to look at the lens of ascension in a different way. And it can help you see so much more about those symptoms are showing up for a reason. They're not there at random. They're not there because you're in an ascension. It's in there because you're trying to evolve a consciousness. So in order to get to that state of evolved consciousness, you have to literally ask yourself, what am I refusing to let go and step into? Because that's what it's all about. So if you freaking loved what I shared today, I totally invite you to check out my new free training series called The Spiritual Awakening Roadmap. So in this series, I break down the 5 common phases that most people experience during spiritual awakening and some quick action steps that you can start to do depending on which phase you're in. It's an incredible series that talks about the journey of spiritual awakening, and it's just brand new. I just released it. And I made it for anyone who might need to be, given a guide or literally a map of, of the journey. Because I'll tell you what, when I was first waking up, I would have loved if someone would have given me just like a roadmap to understand what the heck is going on. I don't understand this. I feel crazy. What the heck is happening to me? So in the training, I basically go over, why the symptoms show up. I go into the common process that most people go through during spiritual awakening and the common 5 stages. And I talk a lot about the different ways that you can understand the spiritual awakening process as a whole and the common awareness points that most people experience. So if you are interested in learning more about spiritual awakening and the journey, I highly recommend checking out that roadmap, and I'll leave down a link down below for you so you can sign up and you get instant access to the roadmap. And if you have any questions at all about ascension symptoms or spiritual awakening, or if you just are like, this lady is crazy, I would love to know what your thoughts are about the spiritual awakening process with this elevated perspective and look on how you can see it from the lens of your mindset reprogramming and understanding that really those ascension symptoms don't need to last forever. And it's important to note that the reason why they're showing up is due to really letting go. And that's what it comes down to. Okay, so let me know your thoughts. Subscribe for weekly drops every Friday, and I'll see you guys next time.